The journey up the path to Nash was going without major incident. That's what made Biggs so nervous. The militia were notorious for bushwhacking. The cliffs offered perfect cover as well as attack points all the way to the city. The thought unsettled Captain Biggs. His team could defeat anything the militia threw against him. His hands were steady, his eyes open, but his mind was clouded. He could not understand why the militia would be willing to fight for such a lost cause. In the distance, rocks could be heard falling off of the cliff face. Without hesitation, the silent companion swung her armor into an assault position. Wedge followed suit. "Contact! Preparing to engage!" yelled Wedge. "Hold your fire!" Biggs ordered. He was hoping to make it down the trail a little further before running into the enemy. "My name is Captain Biggs of Kefka's Marauders, present under the orders of General Kefka and Emperor Gestahl of Vector. To the men of the Nash militia, you know why we're here. Let us pass, give us the Esper, and you have my word as an officer that you will not be harmed." There was no response. It was almost as if the captain was talking to himself. "You are all worthy of the title of warriors. Nobody will deny you that, but you are going up against 3 of the finest Magitech soldiers in the Gestahl Empire. Think of your families. I implore you to make the right decision. Nobody needs to die tonight." His words echoed through the craggy mountain path. Nothing could be seen. The silence was deafening. And that was the answer Captain Biggs dreaded the most. It was time. "Real inspiring there, Cap," Wedge joked. "Shut up, Wedge. Prepare to fire on my signal." "Thought you'd never ask," Wedge said with a sickening grin as he put his finger on the safety catch to his Ifrit cannon. Behind them, some rocks fell from a cliff and tumbled to the ground. Following the rocks was a large barrel with a lit fuse. "Incoming!" screamed Biggs. The explosion from the powder keg was powerful enough to eliminate a squad of infantry, to be sure. But to the marauders, it just burned some of the paint off of Wedge's armor. "You son of a bitch! I just got this damn thing repainted," Wedge exclaimed as he looked to his captain. "Open fire," Biggs ordered. The silent companion pressed a button and a small box raised from the armor just behind her shoulder. A pull of the trigger launched 3 tech missiles towards the point of the attack, turning the cliff face into dust. "We got more kegs topside," Wedge exclaimed. He flicked the safety off on his Ifrit cannon and launched a volley of fireballs at the powder kegs. They exploded before having a chance to be dropped. Wedge marveled at the explosion. "Oh, you boys are screwed now," he said as his missile box popped open, launching 5 or 6 tech missiles at some nearby militiamen. After the explosion, nothing remained but soot and guts. "Who's next, baby?" Wedge screamed. "I got plenty to go around." "Push forward! Double time!" Biggs ordered. The 3 moved faster up the winding path. Countless militiamen were standing in the mountains, armed with bows and powder kegs. Biggs knew what he had to do. He had done it countless times before. That didn't make it any easier. He activated his Ifrit cannon and opened fire on the men in the mountains. His mind was now focused. His aim was true, but it still took everything he had to ignore the pleas of the maimed left in his wake. A powder keg just alongside the rock wall detonated. Rocks fell on top of the silent companion's Ifrit cannon, rendering it useless. With a cold speed, she flicked a few switches. 2 smaller cannons emerged just above her head. She aimed at the closest militiaman and opened fire. The blue beams from a frozen light from her diamond duster hit their marks as 10 militiamen were frozen in place, their bodies encased in a coffin of blue ice. She launched a number of tech missiles at them just to be sure. The coffins shattered into pieces with the men still inside. The battle raged on up the mountain path. The body count continued to rise. A blockade just outside the city gates was manned by about 24 more men. Biggs activated his sparkfire. From deep within, his metal beast rose a low hum. He closed his eyes and pulled the trigger. A flash of lightning spewed forth from the cannon towards the blockade. It was over in a matter of seconds as all 24 men silently fell. Biggs was thankful their deaths were somewhat painless. The three walked through the city gates. Wedge looked at the lifeless bodies with contempt. "Geez, you call that a fight? I've had tougher battles with my morning shits," Wedge joked. Biggs didn't have it in him to reprimand Wedge this time. They had a mission to accomplish, and there wasn't any time to waste with formalities. In the distance, Biggs could hear the cries of the wounded. The sounds churned his stomach. But there was nothing he could do but push forward and follow his orders.